I was waiting for someone to mention something about that. It's a sad day in Australia's international reputation. But yeah, I'm not surprised that Scalspeed starts off the chat with a comment about breakdancing. But yeah, for those who haven't seen it, just Google Ray Gun. It's the most epic thing you'll ever see. But we are back with episode 199 of the DayZ Podcast, joined as usual by our bevy of co-hosts. Marks, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Not too bad, mate. Not too bad. You got a pretty good connection there, mate.
Yeah, upgraded.
Connor, how you doing, mate?
Yep, really good.
Got you a decent avatar this week, not that weird looking one you had the other week.
Yeah, I'm still working on the DayZ one.
Helkiana, you're back, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Just figuring out some technical issues on my side.
Same. I've spent about 2 hours this morning trying to work out why my virtual background won't work. So couldn't resolve a single fucking thing. But hey, that's typical for this show, that there's always some sort of issue. No Cobra this week, ladies and gentlemen. He's running late, and Devil's Knock is on holiday somewhere, says he needs sunscreen. So he's probably burnt like a lobster at the moment. But we are joined this week once again by a recurring community guest, one of my favorite communities of all time, the one, the only DayZ Underground team. How you doing?
Good. Psyched to be on.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks.
We've got Oz and Matt. Oz, tell us a bit about yourself, mate.
Sure. Yeah, so I'm an admin on Doug. I have been for, I think, a little over a year at this point. Been playing on Doug for about 6 years or a little more. I've been playing DayZ since the mod, and I've been pretty invested in the game since that time as well. Played every version of it. I jump into every server I can just to see what's going on, and love checking out the mods that the community is able to come up with as well. So, yeah.
Awesome. And Matt, Legit Pop, tell us a bit about yourself, mate.
Yeah, I'm a fairly new addition to the Doug staff team. I think I've been on for 2 months now. I think it was beginning of June I joined as a mod. I've been on Doug for, sorry if you could hear that car behind me. I've been on Doug for almost 5 years, I think, and I've been playing DayZ since the mod, and I've played every probably iteration of DayZ, every modded server, played on vanilla lightly because of obvious reasons, but yeah, I'm looking forward to where DayZ goes in the future and where Doug goes.
Now, I am going to ask you if you can zoom in on that shirt just so everyone can see the most awesome Hawaiian shirt we have ever seen. Can you work out what's on there, folks? A10 Warthogs. How cool of a Hawaiian shirt is that, Marks?
Yeah, it's pretty sick.
That is just absolutely badass. I love it. Absolutely love it. But yeah, DayZ Underground. I've done a spotlight on it. I've had, Dr. Big Money. I've had so many people from there on. But you guys are a bit of an enigma in the DayZ community or DayZ communities community, because like Helkiana, Marks, Connor, you guys have been around for a number of years as well, and we've seen so many big name servers come and go. But Doug has always been just a constant, hasn't it, Helkiana?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I joined the community, Doug was around already, and that was, I don't know, like 4 or 5 years ago. And I think like it did have already a bit of a reputation, so it is kind of interesting to see how some communities can keep going for so many years. And did you guys have any issues with like player population going down or anything like that?
Well, yeah. So, we're a little over 10 years at this point of Doug being live. And yeah, so obviously it has ebbed and flowed a little bit in that time for sure. We've gone through a few experimental phases, if you want to call it that as well. Some really fundamental changes to the server that ultimately, changed the server pop stability a little bit in those times as well. But ultimately, I mean, at this point in time, Doug is in a fantastic spot ever since our most recent wipe back in May. this wipe so far up until now has been super successful. We're full with a queue multiple times a week this wipe so far. And yeah, we've really kind of hit our stride right now. And obviously over the last 10 years, our community has kind of evolved with us too, right? People have come and gone as they, as it's kind of expected. But whether you've played on Doug for a day or a decade, right, you play a big part in kind of the community and where we're at now. So yeah, it's been awesome.
But there's just been so many memorable moments in DayZ lore associated with the DayZ Underground community, from Mr. Blackout's diaries, which were a lot of them were filmed on there. I was chatting with you before the show. One of my top 10 all-time favorite DayZ videos ever is the Running Man's The Way of the Meat, Hex the Bandit. Because it was such a good video in seeing someone taken outside of their comfort zone. And someone who notoriously does not like role playing, but that's also another secret to DayZ Underground. Even though it's an organic interaction focused server, role playing is not essential. The only rule is don't be a dick and fuck with someone else's story. If you can't handle someone doing a bit of cringe role play, don't play on there. But I got to watch live Paul taken out of his comfort zone by a guy who was clearly trying to provoke him. And it turned out, if you haven't seen the video, if someone in chat can find it, Hex the Way of the Meat, and share it, even to this day, it is still one of the best DayZ videos of all time for me. You guys had such a close connection to the dev team back in the day, being the very first ever community server. And, you've done some controversial things along the way, the no locks on base. Pardon me, the no locks on bases, that really upset the community, but we've talked about that. But how's that going these days?
Yeah, so when I referred to before kind of the experimental phases we've gone through to see how it affects the gameplay loop on Doug and things like that, we've made some pretty crazy changes. Obviously, DayZ is kind of one of those base building communities for sure. And yeah, at one point we said, you know what, these, everybody's making a loot vault with 20 gates to get into it, and bases were just getting out of hand, and suddenly you have close to a full server, but nobody's running around. Everybody's sitting in the base. So at that point, we made a pretty fundamental change, removed locks for a short time. We're like, yeah, this has got to be a good experiment. And you know what? It had its pros and cons. At the end of the day, at least we're able to say that we tried it to see what the outcome was. And yeah, ultimately ended up reverting that a few months later. And since then, it brought a lot of players back, to say the least. And
yep.
And yeah, but at this point now, locks are obviously fully back. They have been for a while, and things are pretty stable for the time being. So.
But it is an issue, isn't it, Mark? When you have the base building servers, and I love a good base building server, but when you have these servers, like they were saying, which have got 20 different airlocks and all the rest of it, it starts to get a bit ridiculous. Plus the impact it has on server performance.
Yeah, it's always one of those things, base building. It's hard to balance, super hard to balance. It's, you can put a limit, like you can say in your Discord, okay, 10 gates per team or whatever. Like you can do it that way, but I don't know if that really works. It's, yeah, the conversation of base building versus not base building, how do you balance it? It's a difficult one, there's so many different ways to do it, and it's
there's no perfect solution. Is definitely.
No.
And it's great to see you guys trying something, Matt. That was a bit, bit of a shock to the system, and it definitely got some people talking. I was fascinated when I saw it. It was like, that's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how that plays out for him. But
yeah,
you tried it. And kudos for trying something.
Yeah, it didn't go great, but I had a lot of fun during it. I mean, running around with everyone outside of their base and all the interactions that I had, I think it kind of showed the community what you can get out of the server. So it was, I mean, it was a big change, but I think overall I think at the time it was needed.
Archie's still begging for an unban from the community. Impulse lied. It was a coup.
Yeah.
But one of the things with that is, like, we had the comment there, it has been 0 days since code locks have been mentioned. But you put on, I think that's part of the issue is a lot of the mods that we have out there have got the memory. You've got to it instantly remembers the code for you, and particularly when you got code locks, all you got to do is walk up, press interact, gate opens, press interact, gate closes. Whereas if you don't, or you have there's a little server I play on here that you may or may not have heard of. Get your bingo cards out. DayZ Down Under. They got a good mod, which I think because they work closely with you guys in sharing IP, and that mod where it's only combo locks, but it remembers the code, but it doesn't instantly open for you. So you've still got to sit there and hold the mouse button. And they've accelerated a bit, so it's not too slow. But if you've got a 6-dial combo lock on, you've got to wait for the wheel to spin 6 times. And then it opens and then it closes and automatically resets. So you've still got that vulnerability. And if you've got a base with 20 air locks before you can get in, Oz, that's a good way of making people really I don't want to be going through 20 locks every single time. But when they can just one tap, open, close, there's no real negative side effect to having too many.
Yeah. Big point for the removal of code locks, right? Is I think the thing is we made a point with that where when we ended up returning them, people have been much more reasonable since then, consistently with their bases, and you don't see these massive crazy loot vaults anymore, and people are keeping their base size fairly reasonable, and they understand what the point of that change was, right, and what we were trying to accomplish there. And even then, during that change too, like even though the server was averaging averaging less than what it is now, 20, 30 tops, and usually less than that on average, it's funny because you would see those 20, 30 people out in the wild. It was also pretty awesome to see when people didn't have, 4 dials and 3 dials as an option. People would literally make their base with like an obstacle course to get in. That way they still made it so there was a little bit of a process to get in their base, and it wasn't just people walking freely into their base every time. And it was cool to see people switch it up a little bit, make some unique bases, and change their strategy slightly. So I think the point was made, and ultimately it was for the better, and we're in a good spot now. So
just quickly, thank you so much, Paddy, for the 2-month membership. Really do appreciate it. But there's a few other things you can do, Connor. Like I've seen some servers have got a code lock that requires a battery to be inserted into it to keep it active.
Yeah.
I had a quick question on the topic of kind of code locks and all of this stuff. Do you think it would be possible to say you wanted to have a limit on your server of like, okay, you can only put, for example, you're going to have 6 gates per base, no matter how big your group is, 6 gates is the limit, no matter what. Is there a mod or a script or something like that that could be written that could calculate when a group or something?
Well, we've got the right person here to answer that, Helkiana.
Yes, there is a mod that can limit how many things can be put in the territory. So they would have to use the territory and not allow base building outside of the territory, because that's the only way in DayZ to connect.
That's actually been suggested by our community. We have a CC, community controlled environment, and we allow our community members to suggest changes to the server, and then they're voted on by group and faction leaders, and then eventually implemented or not implemented based on what the voting system is. And we've had that actually suggested. So we'll see if that actually gets implemented in the future, but I don't think that vote has come up yet.
I personally still like the whole you've got to spend a bit of time entering a code at the front gate of your base. That vulnerability of when you've got that standing at the gate, having to interact with the gate. There's nothing like it, is there, Marks? You're panicking as you're hurry up, open the gate, and
yeah, it's something actually we're adding as well to our server. We are kind of taking the vanilla code locks and the vanilla locks, and they'll act like a code lock, but there'll be a delay. So when you press it on, there'll be a 2-second delay or something before you'll actually be able to. It does the animation, but it's like really quick, and then you'll be able to get in. So it is cool, to have that kind of feature, because you really have to decide, like, do I want to stay out here, or do I want to risk going into my base? Even though it might take 2 seconds to open a door, you still have to kind of think about it.
And like they say there, Helkiata, it's even set up this mod from memory where if you're the one who placed it or you've got it memorized, it does it a bit quicker than if you were someone trying to hack that, to hard break or hard, pick that lock. So I've always thought that was quite a clever mod.
Yeah. And ultimately too, obviously, I think we all probably wish that the DayZ soft skill system was a little bit more fleshed out. Can be essentially useless at times at this point. But you've seen people that go crazy building, a large base or building multiple bases and without dying, and their character builds up that soft skill, and that actually affects the speed that you roll your locks. So it's funny to see some people that don't have that soft skill at all and how long it takes them to roll their dial. And then when you have a character that has that soft skill advanced a little bit more after building a base, how quickly they can roll their lock. So there are ways to make it to roll through your lock a little bit faster. Like I said, I wish DayZ's soft skill system was something a little bit more than what it is now. But
they removed in 126.
Yeah. They're totally removed.
Right on. Probably for the better. Yeah.
And it's something we've talked about a bit, Mark's soft skills. And I'm open to the idea, but I've always, and I've said this time and time again, I've always liked that DayZ ultimately just comes down to how good you are at the game and a little bit down to the specs of your computer. If you're running on a dinosaur, that is going to impact your ability, your frame rate, and all the rest of it, your view distances and so on. But if you're running on a top of the line computer, you're going to get a bit of an edge. But otherwise, it's pretty much just down to, and like Nacho said there, and a bit of luck.
Yeah. And it seems the devs agree, because like the amount of times you've asked people, or people have asked, like, what's the second bar underneath your stamina? And to be honest, I never really fully understood how the soft skills thing kind of worked. So it was hard to explain, and I don't think it was really needed. So
it was poorly implemented, wasn't it, Helkiana? It was, you basically had to commit to only doing one sort of task to see any progress, because it just constantly moved to the side. It was either all in on construction side or all in on the repair side. And
it didn't help with like also not telling people what it is. I know like it's all about like discovery, but like it's just a bit too much in the unknown, and it's just kind of like, what is this thing? It doesn't even say what it is. First of all, you don't even know how you move from one side to another, and then and it's like it's only goes two ways, because like people were abusing it apparently, like doing just the one side just so they can do the locks faster. This thing about the soft skills, it has been mentioned by Samurak like years ago, like that it's not great and it needs to be removed.
And they finally got around to doing it.
Yeah.
What about for DayZ Underground though? Have you guys had any requests to implement something? Because you are not really a casual player server. You guys have got the repeat people and the factions which have different focuses and all the rest of it. So if any community was going to implement some sort of, because there are some pretty good mods out there for soft skills to learn if you want that. But is that something you guys have ever discussed or tried in the past?
So when it comes to soft skills specifically, I don't think we've ever implemented anything that changes it from what the vanilla standard has been till now. There have been obviously some suggestions to change up the soft skill system slightly to, make it so that the bonuses you get from those soft skills are for something actually useful instead of just how quickly you can roll your lock or whatever else it currently allows you to do. It's just about actually implementing those changes, which is a little bit more of a challenge. Like I have zero background in that. So when it comes to implementation of those changes and modding and stuff, that's not really my wheelhouse, but there's definitely been suggestions for that. It's just a matter of figuring out what works best, if it's possible to implement, and then, doing the legwork to actually get it in there.
It's definitely an interesting thing. And like I said, there are some communities that have got some ideas along those lines, and it seems to work well for some of them. But for the most part, Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to miss the fact that they've disabled the vanilla soft skills now, because no one really ever did. Like Archie said, I like getting 4 logs per tree after cutting down so many, and that was really about the only one that most people ever noticed. The reduction in the wear on your repair items and things like that, no one ever really noticed. But when you're suddenly chopping down trees and you're getting 4 per tree, and you're like, what's going on here? Most people probably didn't even realize it was like, it must be a bug or something like that. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now you guys have got a little community update coming out soon.
The spotlight.
Yeah.
We're working on it as we speak, basically.
Yeah.
It's something you do every now and then. Like, what's the frequency of them?
Yeah, so it's a good question. Same with Doug, the spotlights have kind of ebbed and flowed as well in terms of frequency. So up until now, we haven't had one released in the last few months. So Matt and I are working together to kind of release a larger update and then schedule, because I think we've kind of bit off more than we could chew in the past, where we say we're going to release this monthly, and then you quickly realize that releasing a spotlight monthly is easier said than done. There's quite a bit of work that goes into it, things like that. So we're now aiming to kickstart the spotlights again soon and do it more on a quarterly basis, where we're able to do a bigger spotlight every once in a while, highlight more content, and do it once every few months rather than monthly. So when that kicks up again, that should be a pretty good kind of schedule and system going forward.
Because it is a good thing to do, Connor. Find some sort of way of recognizing the members of your community, isn't it?
Yeah. Like, I've just done a big giveaway on my service Discord, just because we've got so many people in there now that's been there years since we first started it, and then we've got loads of server owners, like content creators, stuff like that. So it's good to just recognize everyone besides doing your own stuff.
And you've got to be careful when you do things like that, though, don't you, Hellkiana? Because like the Doug guys were saying, doing it frequently, even the DayZ dev team stopped doing the community spotlight. So it's a hard thing to do, because there's there'll always be someone who gets their nose out of joint if they don't get recognised in it, isn't there?
I mean, yeah, definitely. The DayZ team obviously now stopped because they're a little bit busy. They're reshuffling probably like the community managers and stuff like that. It is important when you do these things to do branch out instead of recognizing the same people over and over again. Because if you do, like, I've seen it enough in the DayZ spotlights, the same people get mentioned a few too many times, and it's just kind of like it will create, like, I guess not really envy, but just kind of like scorn in the community, jealousy.
And,
but it's not really like for example, I just feel it's a little bit unfair to like always look at the bigger ones, like try, like, the community spotlight is also about elevating other people, like try finding some other fun people in the community. There's so many creators, there's so many things to show, like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great point. That's kind of something that Matt and I are looking at too, is you don't want it to be a popularity contest, right? Where just the most popular stories and factions and players in a server are getting their content highlighted, right? You want to be able to highlight even the newer players that are putting in effort to create something, really anything, whether it's a piece of artwork or a story or a video or even just like an audio recording or whatever it is. So I definitely agree. It's a great point, is you want to be able to highlight as much as possible, which is another challenge with the spotlight. It's like you almost want to include everything so that, everybody's getting their moment in the sun, right? So
I love what the friendly guys are doing, Marks. Okay, dev team can't do it, we'll get something ourselves. And
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, they've got a great little format.
Not because I'm in it, but
the John McClane effect. Some great little articles, and they're also collabing with Greedy Peasant on this as well, which is just awesome to see. that collabing in the community, because that's always been one of the issues. Is a bit like what Helkiana was saying there before, Oz, about rivalry and all the rest of it, and I kind of get frustrated with it all. I just like seeing people work together.
Yeah, for sure. No, I totally agree. And yeah, that's something we try to do for sure is, even especially recently, I mentioned that like Doug specifically right now is like, it's doing well over the last few months. Lots of new players, like on most days when we look at our server list of active players, less than half of them more than half of them, a majority are actually non-whitelisted players that are playing that are newer to the server, which is awesome to see. And I think our most recent Doug map that shows all our different faction territories and points of interest around the map, a lot of them are controlled by newer groups that are getting established on the server and giving it a shot for the first time, which is awesome to see. A point you made earlier, Boydie, was that, in some senses, Doug is not a casual server. It's a little bit more niche, which is definitely true, but I think we've taken a turn for the better recently, in that it's extremely welcoming and new players are coming in more than ever right now. And we do want to appeal to a more casual player. I think people read the server name sometimes or hear about this concept of organic RP on DayZ Underground, and they see that term RP and they say, oh, I'm not a role player and this is going to be too intense for what I'm into. I don't want to make a character and a backstory and yada, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, role play is not required on Doug. And we've really been enforcing that recently and saying, if you're somebody that just likes to hop on and, play on Chernaris with the Doug mod and what that includes as well, you're absolutely able to hop in, play whatever play style fits what you like to get up to, and you'll likely mesh right into the community as it is right now. So I think we've kind of appealed to that more casual community recently, which I think is awesome.
What have you guys got planned for the future with DayZ Underground? Obviously, we've just had Bitterroot released, which was a big map that everyone was excited for. And you guys being a US-based server, are you hosting that at the moment or plans to switch to that?
So in terms of plans and specifically for Bitterroot, there's been a little bit of discussion around that because we recently put out a poll to our members gauging some interest in if our community would like to see a secondary server hosted for Sakal when that releases shortly. We did that for Livonia, which had a great run. We did that for Namalsk for a short time as well. And even though at the end of the day, those secondary servers are usually quite temporary, it's something that we're very open to. So when we started this discussion about, hosting a second server on the release of Sakal, people said, how about Bitterroot? And I thought that was a great suggestion because that map is quite fleshed out. It's awesome to play. I've had a lot of fun on it. And I think that at the end of the day, Bitterroot really kind of fits what the Doug community is looking for in terms of the different POIs. The towns are like awesome looking, and I'm sure people would love to explore that map together as a community. So in terms of plans, nothing concrete. I will say that there's a high likelihood there will be a secondary server hosted at some point soon. Not 100% sure what map that will be yet. And then aside from that, as plans going forward, this most recent winter, we, for the first time in 10 years, we switched up from just vanilla Chernaris and we did winter Chernaris for a few months, which was awesome. After a few months, I think people became a little bit snowblind when you're like staring at the white Chernaris for a few months. It can be a little bit blinding. So we've said, okay, it was a good run and people enjoyed it, but maybe we need to do it at a not for such a long time frame. 3-4 months is a little bit too much. But I'm not sure if you guys have seen this. I think it's a newer mod it's like the fall time Chernaris, where it's like there's like light snow on the ground. It's not as intense as a full winter Chernaris. So there are plans to actually do a kind of transitional phase where we're going to run that fall Chernaris map with the light snow as a transitional phase into winter Chernaris for maybe a month or two, and then take advantage of that transitional Chernaris the fall time. And I can link the mod here if you want to maybe show some screenshots of it.
Well, we've actually got a trailer you said through to showcase as well. Let me just find that. Oh, a long video.
Oh, that wasn't a trailer. I was giving you that in case you wanted to throw something on for visuals. That was the 10-year video.
Let me get the link. I'll put it in the chat for you all to watch. But tell us about this legit.
So yeah, I had an idea to get the entire Doug community involved in something for the 10-year anniversary of Doug, which I thought was a huge accomplishment for any server, especially since DayZ had just turned 10. So I started reaching out to different factions and people in the community, and we put together a kind of video showcasing Doug and like what characters you can find on the server. Every character in there is portrayed as they would be in game. I also was lucky enough to get Smoke involved. TRMZ and Amish said also had some speaking parts, which was really cool because they were really great about it. And yeah, it got really good reception. I've had a lot of good feedback from it. I think the Running Man messaged me and told me that he really enjoyed it. Amish said took him a while to watch it, but he eventually came around and he thought it was really, really well done and really good. And then Smoke, obviously, he's a busy man, but I know he watched it and he shouted it out on stream for me. So because they all enjoyed Doug before they got super famous, you know, and they I think they all wish they could play on it again. It just doesn't work as a streaming environment because it's sometimes slow in between interactions, you know.
And yeah, that's at the end of the day, Marks, that's what the content creators need, isn't it? Interactions to keep the chat entertained.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you have to kind of be constantly going and going and going to keep.
Yeah, I think Doug's more of a quality over quantity. I'd say like the interactions you get on there, like the Hex video, I think is a great embodiment of what Doug is supposed to be, and it did what it was supposed to do. You watching TRMZ have that interaction with Hex and watch him go from somebody who isn't really involved in the role player interaction community and kind of slowly start to get the hang of it and then eventually get involved in the story. And that's what we want Doug to be. We want it to be a place where you can go in and play however you want and then eventually build up to being a community member and a part of the core that we have. I think that's what makes Doug special, and I think that's why we can't recreate it. We've tried before, and for some reason, the core of this community has kept it going as long as it has.
It was really fortuitous when you guys reached out because there was something that I've been wanting to discuss for a while, and that's the karma system. And both of you being mod players, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and it's something that DayZ's never had. The closest it's ever had just got brought back into the game, but although it's gone again, was the bandit masks, the payday masks. And, you know, pretty much if you saw someone wearing a payday mask, you were instantly, that guy's a bandit. But for those who don't know, back in the old days of the mod, if you helped enough people, you got the hero skin. If you killed enough people, you got the bandit skin. So it was immediately identifiable who was a good guy and who was a bad guy, for better or for worse. And it's been something that, you know, we even had it just in chat before. Someone said, you know, bring back the karma system, the hero bandit skins. But it's a hard one to implement, Oz. What's your community's take on it? Is it something you guys have discussed?
So as a community, it's not something that's been raised recently, at least. But I think it's a great topic. For me, it's like maybe the way it was back in the day where it was so immediately obvious if someone is, you know, back in the mod days, if someone's a hero or a bandit. I think something that's a little bit less noticeable could be cool. You know, in a sense, something similar to Kuru for bandits, not necessarily the laugh, but what I mean is like until you get up close and start interacting with that person or maybe looting their body, you don't realize that this person was a bandit until you know, see some sort of marker or identifier on them that's only noticeable at close range. That's like, it's kind of like when you kill someone in DayZ and then you find human meat on their body. You're like, oh, you know what? We got one of the cannibals. This guy was a cannibal. Maybe it was a good thing that we took him out, right? But you don't know that until you get up close and you see what they have on them, type of thing, right? Something less noticeable than just a full PID switch where your characters are wearing something that's so easily identifiable. Hopefully that makes sense. Something that's a little bit less intrusive, but still a small marker on your character to kind of show which way you lean.
Because it's something I definitely want to get your opinion on, Helkiana. Like Steve says in chat there, for him it would break immersion. But the counter to that I have is that, think about even in your own neighborhood, particularly when you're a young person, you know who the good guys are, you know who the bad guys are in your neighborhood. Especially the bad guys, they all get a name. And, when you see them, you immediately know the reputation of that person. Whereas a video game, that's a harder mechanic to implement effectively because it's forced upon you, Helkiana. What's your take on
it? First, I just want to mention something. If you find human meat, it doesn't mean they're the cannibal themselves. Just saying.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true.
I used to do that when I'm old school all the time, and then I would feed it to whoever I would capture.
No, that makes you a bandit.
I mean,
that makes still a bad thing to do. Yeah,
you're giving them a death sentence. Yeah, I'm not a bandit. I only force feed them human meat. Where did you get the human meat?
Cannibal.
Don't ask that question.
Because he said cannibal, right? Like it was a better choice than just having just shooting them. I would rather just capture people when I would play PvP, and then and go from there. But for the karma system, I don't really see how it can be implemented in DayZ so it is immersive. I don't know, like someone was mentioning, I think on Twitter, they were saying, could we maybe change the face expressions of the player model, like depending on their karma system, but that doesn't exist in DayZ, and I don't think they will be able to change the engine in such way to implement something like that.
I kind of like being able to if you want a karma system, probably the best thing you can do is join a good community, Connor. DayZ Underground, like there's a community on DayZ Underground. Matt, Oz probably knows who I'm going to mention. Matt, you probably got an idea of who I'm going to mention. But for me, the most notorious group ever on DayZ Underground was Dark as Midnight. Those guys scared the absolute shit out of me. I knew of them. I knew that they liked to wear certain clothes, and I knew that if I went to Gorka, I was rolling the fucking dice as to whether I was going to get fucked up. But that's where a good community can really be great for building that reputation, Connor. Have you had an experience with something similar?
No, I can't say I have, to be honest.
What about you, Marks?
I don't think so. I'd say I'm more PvP focused as well. So even if they were good, I'd probably shoot them, just because that's my nature in this game. But I don't think I've ever.
But have you ever really embedded yourself on a community server and stayed there for months at a time playing the same server? That's where part of this comes into. I'm starting to think, Oz, that a lot of the people asking for this are those who just flick between servers, whatever's got the highest pop, jump on there. Whereas if you do find a good community server, you get to know the factions and the different groups that are on there. Most of them give themselves some sort of silly name, and they might have a certain clothing item that they'll predominantly wear, and they'll enforce their right to wear that. If they see someone else wearing a certain hat that they like to wear, they'll, hey, what are you doing wearing our hat, sort of thing. So, and it's not even really role play, is it, Oz? It's just organic interaction.
Yeah, exactly. And, speaking of damn, right? It's like the notorious phrase, red is dead. When people come on Doug, they see someone wearing red immediately. That's Dark as Midnight. That guy's a cannibal. And it's me or them at this point, right? I got to run away, or I got to take them on, or I got to risk an interaction where I might get, tortured and devoured, right? But ultimately, I think a karma system would take away a little bit of that, organic nature, in the sense that it's like, if you can tell in one way or another that someone is a bandit or a hero, it really lays out the structure for how that interactions were going to go. And you have less choices as well and options to be that person that's, can walk up to someone and have a friendly interaction, but then maybe an hour later they say, you know what, I'm not talking anymore. And the next person I see is getting put in the mud. Right. So, and it kind of takes away from that if there's some sort of identifier to let you know which way this player leans. Right. So I think that's kind of my take on the karma system anyway.
What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I think just coming from the Doug side of things, I don't think it would work on Doug just because a lot of people like to live in that gray area where like sometimes they do some shady shit and then other times they're not doing shady shit, and it depends on the company that they're in. But yeah, it may work on some servers if maybe you have a more PvE oriented server or like something that's more role play. Like we're not officially a role play server, we're just interaction server basically. So, and a lot of people like I said, like to play in that gray area, and I think that would take that away from them, and I don't think that could work. Also, I like to maybe some days I want to get on and shoot some people,
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Now I am going to showcase a bit of this. I don't care if Jack Frags claims it because it's Jack Frags. He's an absolute fucking legend. But I was stunned that there were so many people who had never seen this before. Sadly, the other guy involved in this got exposed as being not a very nice person. But this was an all-time classic from back in the day. And if you've never seen it, it's called DayZ Rap Battle. This is back during the... it's what is it, a 10-year-old video back in the days when rap battles were the big thing. But a guy called Boy in a Band, he's collabed with PewDiePie and so many other people in the past. But he collabed with Jack Frags to make the Hero versus Bandit DayZ Rap Battle.
Oh goddamn, I'm up against a bandit. You guys are more annoying than rubber band and always kill with no regard for the state of the game.
You're only saying that because you fail at aiming. Call yourself a hero? That's a stupid name for a dude that dropped out of the shooting range.
Will it be boring to conform to a running scene?
So come on, motherfucker, let this war begin.
It's not about kills, so when you're next dead, go back to card like an ex-veg pescatarian.
Shooting zombies all day is so dull that I may sleep. Like I'm playing DayZ and you're playing DayZ.
And I'll pause it there. If you want to watch the rest of it, I highly encourage you to. It's a great little video, isn't it, Oz?
Yeah, for sure. That's a legendary video. And I agree that Jack Frags is a boss. I love his stuff. So I think that's a great showcase of kind of that the karma system we're talking about, right? Where it's like you're very heavily one way or the other, right? The heroes there saying, like, if you want to kill people, go play COD. When the bandit does not feel that same way whatsoever, right? And like Matt said, it's really difficult to play that gray area in between where you can choose what you want to get up to without being fully exposed by having an identifier on your character, right? So, yeah.
But it's also, you don't want to get locked into playing a certain style, do you, Helkiana? Sometimes you just feel like you just want to maybe be a bad guy, whereas you've been, a good player all this time. But you don't want to get locked into a certain play style, do you?
No, definitely not. But it depends on the type of server you play on, I guess, and what kind of gameplay you go for. Like, if you play on servers like Day One, you can just, there is interaction, like a lot of it, but then you can switch up because it happened so many times where I was like, you know what, this time I'm gonna change my name and I'm gonna, introduce myself different. People might recognize your voice, and I've recognized other people, and I'm like, are you this guy that I met like down there? And they're like, no, I'm this other guy, and I'm like, okay, fine, I will just go with it, because like if they wanted to change the character, it's fine.
And there are a number of different character models in the game, and then combine that with all the different clothing items, it is quite easy to make yourself fairly unique, even on a vanilla server, isn't it, Connor?
It's all right. I'll mind Miles wear then.
Mark, what do you think?
Jesus.
Yeah, it is easy to make yourself unique. You know, there's so many different looks you can go for and all this. I don't think on official servers a karma system would work, especially not now. Something like that would have to be implemented when the game first came out, you know, so people would be used to it. I have played servers before that did have a karma system where you're a hero or a bandit, and every time like you killed a Zed, you'd get some points, or if you killed a player, you get some or minus and all this stuff. They've been around, they've never really lasted that long, so I don't think the demand is there for a type of server like that. Maybe down the road it might, but it's interesting because it's a very hard thing to kind of balance, it seems like, as well, you know.
One thing I would like to see though, Matt, is something along the lines of a trauma effect on you, that you've got to do certain activities to keep your sanity almost. I'll preface that by saying maybe not wish to see, but I think something that could be explored. The more people you kill, the more trauma it takes on you personally. I don't know quite how you could implement that, what the effects would be, but I do think that's something potentially to be explored, Matt.
Yeah, I think so. Just with that, I know servers that have something similar to that. I think it goes a little bit beyond what I would like. I know Stalker Z has like a trauma system or a sanity system that they've implemented, and I know that like right now in the Doug Discord, we're kind of having a community discussion about the way cannibals are represented on the server and like how to deal with that. And I think I don't know how to. It would have to be a happy medium where like you could have a trauma system or something that kind of fucked with your character a little bit, but it wasn't too much and overbearing, and it didn't affect your actual like gameplay to the point where it was kind of taking over. But yeah, I think something like that would be interesting if implemented correctly and done in a way that it's not too invasive to the player or the rest of the community. Yeah, like the cannibal thing, I think it needs to be. I'd like to see it expanded a little more to not just be a twitch and a laugh, to be something that kind of over time gets worse and worse, or can be suppressed in some way.
Elk, you were going to say something then?
Yeah, about the insanity system, I think that would work a bit better than a karma system per se, because. But I guess like it just depends how you want to implement it. So I wanted to implement an insanity system for my server in part of the medical overhaul, where the insanity would actually persist through death. So if you suicide, that would increase the sanity, the insanity, and then doing other things would decrease it, and then you could take it down if you were careful. But like, for example, like if you keep taking loads of pills, like painkillers, it would take your sanity down, because like you go into overdose as well and stuff like that. So it can be tied in with a heavier medical system, but it really depends on the type of server you want to implement. Like for mine, I would like people to maintain their characters, so I don't, because it's a PvE server, so I don't think like having death as a permanent thing is a good thing.
That was the mod. Just I see someone wrote it there that DayZ had a skin back in the day, or a system back in the day, and that was it. That you can see there, the bandit with the shmag and the hero with the hero shirt and a baseball cap and that. And with the shmag coming back to vanilla soon, that's I'm really looking forward to. I love the shmag. It's just one of the. It's such a useful item to wear. There's so many different ways you can wear it, and it's just got such a good use.
I still like Winstride's shmag bearer.
Yeah. If that's probably my number one all-time favorite item from his Winstride's clothing pack is his shmags. I love them, absolutely love them, and now we're going to get them in vanilla DayZ. Just makes me so happy. Puts a smile on my dial. But Marks, what are your thoughts on that? Some sort of sanity system.
Could be interesting. Again, it all depends how something's implemented, right? There's so many million and one ways you could probably do it, but I don't know, you'd have to see it and play it, I think, to get a true kind of opinion on how it would work. Again, for a modded server, yes, but for official, I don't think something like that would be necessary. I don't think, because I don't think people would like it personally, but
No.
It depends, right?
I do think that there is the potential for them to even just implement the mechanics for stuff, but not have it maybe on vanilla, but just there as an option for community servers. But at the same time, that's what the modders do. But is there mechanics not
Consoles
needed?
Don't get shit. They don't get mods.
That's the big thing is console doesn't have this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was talking, when I was in my uproar state about the statement of what they're gonna do this year, and I was disappointed that it was just suck all. I was saying, like a big thing that they could do is really implement human AIs, right? And people were like, oh yeah, but that doesn't fit like DayZ, and I'm like, well, it doesn't have to be unofficial, right? They just have to implement it, and then community servers can activate it if it's their version of DayZ, right? Because it would change the game entirely if, like, especially on like lower pop servers, if there's some shooting there, you don't know, is it AI, is it a player, is it like, it could change the game entirely. But the thing is,
sorry, go ahead.
DayZ just will never implement something that is now used on official servers. Like never.
Yeah, and I think there might be an issue of console performance as well, because like even look at with on 126, there was the view distance thing that came in for PC players, but console players didn't get it yet because of performance limitations and stuff. So there's probably a lot of that has to do with it as well. I'd assume anyway. But
the important thing that a lot of people have got to remember though is one, bandits don't ruin DayZ. They can. But for the most part, no. And my mate Vigilante Gamer's got a discussion video on it that I just shared in chat there. Bandits are not ruining DayZ. This is from 10 years ago. But at the same time, they can have a very, very negative effect on a community if all they're doing is just killing. And that's where a good community server will rein those guys in and say, hey, look, it might be fun for you, but no one else is having fun. And it's something that I've talked about in the past. I haven't discussed it in a while, but some people need to learn that sometimes an L can be a dub. It's about the story, and that's where servers like DayZ Underground, you might have lost that battle, but the war will continue, and that gives you an opportunity for a rivalry to come up. Oz.
Yeah, you're definitely preaching to the choir when it comes to the last few things you said there, for sure. When it comes to like banditry, right? And I can speak to Doug, is that, DayZ Underground wouldn't be what it is without having players on both sides. The people that are there to be a more friendly player, community camp, giving away food and like really making themselves quite vulnerable. And then having people in the gray area, and then also having people on, the bad side, or people that are causing some chaos, and putting out a steady reminder to everyone that nobody is safe, no matter where you are. We're still playing DayZ, and we're still in the apocalypse, right? And, there's going to be people out there that don't have your best interest in mind. But that being said, it's important. And the thing that we kind of always say on Doug is, no matter what you're doing or what your play style is, you should be considering the person on the other side of the screen. So going around and being a bandit is, it's all good. It's more so when you're being a bandit and you're going back to the same territory every single day and just being relentless against the people there daily, and just not giving them a chance to breathe and kind of have a grace period for them to kind of collect themselves again and maybe come back in with a little bit more of a force to put up against whatever your intentions are. So when you say things like when you're talking about things like that, I absolutely think that you just need to consider who else is playing on the server, especially on a community server where you've got such a core community that's consistently playing there. There's a right and a wrong way to be a bandit, for sure.
I have a question for Oz. How do you deal with people taking banditry a bit too far? Because, like, obviously, a lot of people are, well, I'm a bandit. Of course, I'm gonna say slurs and gonna pick on
Oh.
women. So because
So-
I've had that a lot. So, how do you
That's
deal with
that.
it?
That's fair. So well, specifically for like slurs and like anything else that's just straight up toxic, that's stuff that we pretty much have a zero tolerance policy on. So like that's stuff where we will reach out to those players right away. And if you're going around saying slurs and picking on certain people for whatever reason and you're making it personal, your time on Doug is not going to last very long. If you're going around being a bandit and having a hostile, if your play style is quite hostile, there's nothing wrong with that. There's, like I said, there's a right and a wrong way to do that. Just consider the people on the other side of the screen. You're allowed to raid on Doug. You're allowed to kill without talking. We don't have these forced RP rules, right? Where you have to go up and start an interaction before you can become hostile, or you have to value your life. You have the freedom to play how you want, whether you're hostile, friendly, or otherwise. It's just about kind of considering who else you're playing with and the fact that you want everyone to have fun and keep coming back to the server, right? And if you're bullying people off it, like I said, your time on Doug likely won't last. So, yeah,
That's good.
I'm loving the discussion in chat here. Free Archie. Well, now we know why Archie is banned on DayZ Underground. But yeah, I watched a video through the week and I shared it on Twitter as well. And it was a video by an armor creator. And it was called The Curse of Knowledge. I've just shared it in chat, but it was a very, very fascinating video. The guy's called Ironbeard, and he's almost like Armor's equivalent of Vigilante Gamer in that he does these in-depth, almost, talking about the philosophy of these style of games. And one of the issues being that some games with Armor that has a respawn system has that problem of you've got the knowledge of what happened, and when you go back into battle, you've immediately lost that initial not knowing what you're going into. You're going back into it. But he actually specifically mentioned DayZ, and he said DayZ's got a cure for it in that it's permadeath. You die, you respawn back on the coast. But we do see some servers that are implementing, sleeping bags, and you can respawn back there. And we've got the problem with old accounts, which is much worse on console than it is on PC. But what are your thoughts on that one, Mark? Did you watch it?
I didn't even see it actually, but it does seem pretty cool. I'll have to check it out afterwards.
It's a fascinating video. Is it something you've ever thought about, Helkiana?
No, I haven't seen the video. I'll have to watch it to know exactly.
So it's basically he talks about that first time was where you get into an interaction. It might be you find a base and there's people in there and you decide, bugger, I'm going to try and raid this base. And that very first time you try that, you know nothing. You're going in there and they know nothing about you as well. But after that first interaction, if you die and then respawn and get straight back into it again, you're going back in there with knowledge. So it is a problem for a lot of shooters, but DayZ is kind of exempt from it. But you constantly see people always saying, the respawn system in DayZ sucks. I think it's one of the things that makes DayZ so special.
Yeah, for sure. And what you're talking about, like I've seen this on more like forced RP servers where if you die, you're supposed to kind of forget the events leading up to your death. But the thing is like realistically, it's extremely difficult to police that, right? What information that player is moving forward with, what they're going to try to take advantage of. It's very difficult to police. So I think having the freedom to just say, okay, you died, you wake up on the coast. Doug specifically, like there's no requirement to permadeath. But I think the fact that you can wake up on the coast and you can go back into it for a second try on a raid, using your example, and you have a little bit more knowledge now of who might live there, the way their base might be laid out, things like that. I think that's important. I think that's more than fine for your character to slowly gain that knowledge by taking risks and trying to raid or trying to gain information in one way or another, and not being forced to forget that and start fresh every single time, because I can see that being quite exhausting for sure.
Yeah. I just want to quickly address it. Ray's is saying there in chat is calling someone a biatch a slur. Context. Context matters. Almost anything can be said with the right context. There's obviously some things that can't be said, but roll your dice, speak it, but don't be prepared or don't be surprised if it bites you in the bum. You can call me a bitch, but I'm not going to take much offense to it. But you call the wrong person a bitch, they may take offense. So roll the dice.
I've seen instances where people do get very upset when you do call a female a bitch in the game because it felt more of a direct insult towards the gender of the player instead of just because like I use bitch a lot, like and I don't mind like it's it's just and it's just it depends how it's said as well. I've had plenty of players just the way it was said to me it's just it felt different compared to just like calling someone the C word, like I don't know. I feel it feels different.
That's really rolling the dice. Unless you've got a very thick Aussie accent, you're fucked. And even then, with an Aussie accent, you're probably still fucked.
It's just
Archie, like Archie says, the game does have a mature rating, but again, it's about context. Read the room, folks. Read the room. Don't just go running around. N bombs and R bombs and everything like that. You're eventually going to just make people realize that you're nothing but a bad type of troll, not a funny troll. You're just if there's more to trolling people than just using edgy words. And that's what a lot of people need to realize. You can do a lot more. Like one of the guys who I troll the most is Mike Doherty. Some of the pranks I pulled on that guy, they're like months long. That I'll run something. I've said this before, but I'll say it again. One of the things I used to do to him is every time I'm in a group chat with him, in a group voice chat, I'll pretend I can't understand a fucking thing he's saying. But when I finally got to meet him in Prague, he never picked up on the fact that when it was just me and him, and he usually had his missus with him, I never had an issue understanding him. But the minute someone else come over, I'd be like, can you fucking interpret this guy for me? Does he even speak English? And I finally had to explain to him that, and the look on his face was just like, yeah, fucking cunt. Like, he couldn't believe that I'd been doing that. I did one to my son that went for nearly 6 months where I played the long game on this troll. It doesn't just need to be dropping edgy words and all the rest of it. That's lame. That's just poor being an edgelord. There's better ways you can do it that aren't just going to be offensive straight away. So you use a bit of intellect. You have a bit of fun with it. I saw you laughing when I was talking about Mike Marks. That was funny when I finally told him, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. You were ripping into him that weekend. Not in a bad way, but like in a joking way. And it was just, it was funny to see.
What a debate to split the audience. But yeah. Okay. We've got a few spotlights to do. Helkiana, you sent me through your spotlight.
Are we not going to talk about 126?
You're missing a big
experimental.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, no. Ignore me. Marks, go for it. Mark.
Yeah. Well, 126 came out. It was we were expecting it to be a big patch. It was. A lot of changes. A lot of changes they made that weren't necessarily have to do with the update now. Like there was one in the patch notes where they added you can now vault while swimming, like vault up onto something while swimming. And then in the devlog that came out, it was like, oh, these are for the ice sheets that are coming in.
And we know now why you need it. Wasn't about ice sheets.
There was a lot of things like that came in, and overall so far it's all been positive. I haven't heard any real negative feedback about the inventory sizes. I know some people are not happy, but I like it. It's quite good. The meat changes to wolf meat and bear meat, I haven't really noticed because I actually haven't encountered any yet, and I've been playing it now for quite a bit. The only thing that is a bit interesting at the moment that they might need to tweak is what they did with thirst. They changed thirst. So if you're eating food, like if you were thirsty before and you had food on you, you could eat that and it would bring up your thirst. But now, like it does. I was red thirst. I ate an entire can of spaghetti and I went from red thirst to red thirst. So it done nothing. And when you're kind of, you know, fresh off spawn, maybe you can't access the well because it's a bit too dangerous. You have to take the risk of either drinking pond water or just kind of, you know, going, and it's a bit difficult. And it seems like soda cans and water bottles are spawning a lot less. Because I've been playing for a while and it's been very difficult to find some, especially in towns. You can't find them in areas, but it's interesting. They've changed the SKS, so it's now a civilian spawn. It's not military anymore, which is interesting. I went into Vybor and like every house in Vybor there was an SKS, and I'm not sure if they've nerfed the 7.62 itself, but I shot somebody 4 times with the SKS and they didn't even get knocked out. Maybe it was just me or maybe it was the gun. I can't tell. But overall, it's been decent. And obviously, as buddy you just showed there, the boats was not something I expected.
No,
in the slightest.
Did anyone here have an inkling the boats were coming?
Not boats, no.
No, not at all.
No,
not
that was a
before
complete surprise.
126. Sorry.
Yeah, there was some stuff in the files that came out. I think it was scripts and there's some animations that was leaked, but before that, no, there was no idea that it was going to be boats.
I 100% agree with Michael. Like I remember the reveal when we were sitting in that room in Prague, Marks, and I watched it and I was like, okay, it's not bad. Console's going to go absolutely crazy for it. But for me, it was kind of not Blair, but meh. It was, okay, yep.
They were very secretive, weren't they? Like they didn't reveal much. They were keeping everything close to their chest. And then, you know, how far are we away from it now? 3 months, I think, roughly, since that, maybe a bit more. But I'm 100% with him. Every update they've released, Oz, it just gets me more and more excited.
Yeah, me too. I mean, the fact that you know, DayZ standalone's been going for quite a while now, and you know, it's only gotten more popular. We've seen like you know, DayZ population peaking over the last couple of years compared to the majority of its time being available, which shows that, you know, I think first and foremost, the community servers and the community side of DayZ are really keeping it going and bringing in an audience to those Tarkov style servers, the really, you know, trader, start with money or whatever they are. There's a type of DayZ server for everyone nowadays. So I think that the community is really maintaining that population and bringing new people in all the time, which I think is great. But not only that, you have the devs coming out with updates, small and large, all the time, sometimes just a few cosmetic items. And then we've got massive updates like 126 coming out. And speaking to some of the changes that Marks was talking about, you know, I'm a sucker. I mean, you can call me a masochist. Like, I love it. The harder you make it for me, I love running around. I'm poisoned by the meat. I've only got a handful of bullets and all my team is starving to death in the middle of a firefight. I think that kind of thing is awesome. So small changes by the devs to the fundamental DayZ game, making things more challenging. I think it puts everyone in a spot that, you know, makes the game a little bit more rewarding at the end of the day. So I love those changes, even the inventory space being reduced, and then seeing, you know, awesome new updates like the boats and the new map and obviously the ice sheets and everything that goes along with it. And I know that there's a bunch of changes with 126 and stuff that we probably haven't even mentioned, but I'm really looking forward to it, and as well as the future of DayZ. And I'm also curious to kind of hear your guys' thoughts. Like, we're seeing such massive fundamental changes to DayZ recently, and obviously going forward into this new DLC and everything like that. A part of me is thinking, like, you know, are we, and I don't know, you guys have probably talked about this on previous episodes, but, you know, do you see this leading to a potential like DayZ 2 after like the release of like Arma 4 or, you know, things like that? Do you think that they're ultimately building up DayZ to be the best it can be before going into a new version of it? Or
look, I'm showing the Steam charts right now, and even when you go all the way back to post initial early access release, which was, you know, for years, the biggest it ever was, 45,000. But since January 2022, it's had pretty much a minimum average of 50K players.
Yeah.
Dipped a bit there in the 40s, but since then, closer to 60K average players now. DayZ really does need an engine update to be able to, what we're seeing with the Reforger engine and just how beautiful it looks, and some of the functions in there. I can imagine DayZ modders are just thinking, "Oh man, that'd be so cool to have something, that sort of stuff in the background." But as much as I would love if they did, do they really need to, Helkiana? What do you think?
Yes.
They
The
do.
engine is crap. They can't do much more. Like they're limited by so much that they like. Even people like what they said, like look at Reforger. Like in some ways, it's not that much different, but there is like a lot of differences between Reforger and also like the modding tools. Like, dude, we're fucking suffering here. We're dying, like trying to make this work all the time, and make these mods and like the servers and all that is, and they're not getting any love. Like, it would be refreshing for DayZ to, but the thing is, because it would need to be a massive upgrade to be DayZ 2. Is why we won't see it for a long time. So even if they started working on it like 2 years ago, like it will be another 7 at least, because it does need to be a step up from what DayZ is currently. People won't be happy about paying again if it's just basically the same thing. Even though me as someone who's technical, I would be more happy to just pay for an upgrade, or like just let's get on the new engine and all that.
Because like there's a question here, and Marks, I'll go to you for this one. What are BI known for? Armor. But DayZ's been way more successful for them in terms of a game for player numbers. Like my internet connection seems to be crapping out a bit at the moment, but I've got the Armor 3 Steam charts up, and it's got 20K average. DayZ's got triple that, 60K average. So as much as Armor is their baby,
it's weird, isn't it? But I don't know, our Arma players maybe like, they've kind of done everything with Arma 3 and now they're just kind of waiting for Arma 4 because we know it's in development. They mentioned it when Reforger was kind of being showcased, and so maybe they're just waiting there and seeing what happens. I don't know. I don't know much about the Arma side of things now, I must admit, so it's kind of hard for me to comment on it, but
it's got a lot more mods, so money-wise, it potentially is a bigger earner for them. But
and they had that huge sale. Was it the other month? Something they sold like 700,000 copies of the game or something. And
correct me if I'm wrong, but they get a lot of their money from their military software that they contract out.
That's a separate
correct?
Company.
Okay, so company. But it's still tied to Bohemia though.
Well, correct? No, they sold that, didn't they? Bohemia Simulations. I thought they sold that recently.
No,
I'm not sure, but I do remember, because I know people that are in the military right now that still use that software for training purposes. And the military always overpays for everything. So I'm
BAE
sure that
Systems completes acquisition of Bohemia Interactive Simulations for $200 million.
So
7th of March 2022.
Okay, so a couple of years ago. Cool.
Yep.
That's news to me. I was curious if they were still making money off that.
Well, Archie just raised a good point there as well, in that Wildlands is huge in China. I know nothing about Wildlands other than it's a sort of anime-ish looking game. So, yeah, that's something else we just don't know much about. And then you got Vigor as well, which has got a decent community. But, I'm kind of just excited to see where DayZ goes after Arma 4 is released, Helk.
Yeah, I mean, it will be a while for Armor 4, I think, as well. Like,
Yeah.
So I'm not really kind of holding my breath for it. I would rather just keep going with what we have for now and try to push this as much as we can, because there's no certainty there. I mean, if they haven't even announced DayZ 2, there's no point to think much about it, like to just make hope for nothing.
Yeah, that's it. We've got to temper people's expectations, Connor. Are you back, Connor, or are you still eating?
Yeah, no, I'm back. I'm just listening in.
We've got to temper people's expectations, though, don't we?
Yeah.
I'm not expecting anything for minimum probably 2 years. We don't even have an expected release date for Armor 4 that I'm aware of.
No date yet.
Yeah, but I just can't get on Armor at all at the minute.
Have you managed to get Reforged working?
No, I've got no idea. I tried again today, and it just got refunded back. And yeah, I'm just gonna give up on it.
What about you, Oz? Have you tried Reforger?
I haven't tried Reforger, but I've seen, I've watched a lot of streamers playing it, especially when there was this recent, like it was released. The buzz fell off quite quickly for it from what I remember, but then I think they released a big update for it. And then suddenly a lot of these like, milsim and survival streamers like Clean and stuff started to make their own community servers and dig into the modding a little bit. And it looks really promising. And if I understand correctly, that Reforger is supposed to be like kind of the super early look into what the engine's going to be like on Arma 4, then it seems quite promising. I really like the photo or whatever it's called, photorealistic kind of graphics of it, similar to DayZ and Arma 3. That graphic style is awesome to me, and being able to come out with a kind of a real life sim that can be turned into zombie apocalypse servers and milsim servers and whatever else people come up with. I have high hopes for Arma 4 and whatever BI pulls off after that. So yeah.
I just don't understand why they're selling it, Helkiana. For something that's only a limited time release, I would have thought just putting it out there, instantly give it to anyone who owns a BI product on Steam or on Xbox, just as a way of getting people to. But again, we talk about how they make weird choices, but the company still keeps on going from strength to strength. But it's, I know that's what upset a lot of people, wasn't it, Helkiana? The quite high cost for what is essentially alpha testing, beta testing a game.
Yeah, exactly. I've been asked a lot, are you not going to do this? And I'm like, well, first of all, I play survival games. I don't play mil sims. And I'm not going to invest so much time into overhauling a milsim into a survival game, because that's way too much work. And I'm definitely not going to pay like 20 something pounds for a tech demo, because it is a tech demo. They're just like testing their systems and what is possible. Like, at least if it was a bit cheaper, under £10, maybe it would have gone a little bit better, but like definitely I think it would have gone way better for people just trying it out, at least if it was given to anyone that owns DayZ or Arma.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Like, you'd almost think that if this is supposed to be their test into the next engine, they'd be trying to get as many people accessing it and testing it as possible. But the fact that it was kind of released as its own game for now, that was enough to make me not dive into it and really commit to trying it out. If I had free access to it, I'd be more than happy to get in there at least a little bit and see what's going on. But it's just kind of this weird middle ground and gray area, and I'm kind of more so looking forward to what's next. But Reforger is just, it's a good insight into what's coming, but it's not enough for me to dive into.
Okay. 1.26, just going from strength to strength is the main thing. Now, Helkiana, what would you like to showcase this week?
There is a new mod I just saw today that it's been released. Sauerkraut, I think you know him.
Yes, I do. He's a good man.
He made like some sort of like the before the apocalypse server or something like that, and it didn't really work out, I think. So he released the vehicles he made for his server in conjunction with Tyson. And I think they look really cool. Like, we definitely need more like role play vehicles, like the police, the ambulance. And I am a fan of the van. Like, I always try to find them. But there isn't many mods out there that do it. And these ones, they also have like the police lights. I did post a comment. It seems there's a bit of a bug with the police lights sound not turning off properly. But it's great. I love it. I think I'm probably going to use this on my server.
Mm-hmm. Is this the guy that made the like you said, the before the apocalypse Chernarus server where the server was? Yeah, I thought that was awesome. I mean, I didn't play it myself. I really just watched someone do a quick playthrough of it. But watching them walk through Cherno and seeing like the street lights on and the fountains working and like the pre-apocalypse life there, I think that's an awesome idea. It was obviously a lot of work to go into that. One thing I know is like a lot of the lights were working. And I know that DayZ isn't the biggest fan of having too many light sources going at once. So that gets a huge performance impact and things like that. So because there's even that other mod that I'm thinking of now that's coming to mind where, you can activate certain light posts around the map and have them flickering and stuff like that. I think that's awesome environmental mod. But like I said, DayZ is not the biggest fan of light sources and things like that. So if that could be optimized a little bit more, I think that a lot of servers would take advantage of it. It's really cool.
Yeah, it was a cool map. Was that RP? Was that an RP server? It was, I think, right? That he was kind of going for.
Yeah, I'm not sure what
it was.
Yeah, I don't know what the scope of that server was, but it looked cool.
Yeah, I think that might have been one of the reasons why it probably. I don't know.
Yeah.
DayZ and RP. Some servers work well with it, and some servers have been around forever, but majority just don't seem to work, I don't think.
And also, like, if you think about it, like, what kind of danger is there? Like, there isn't like a gameplay loop. Like, you just go interact with people and maybe shoot each other, but like, was the reason in such a world there would be such a hostility? Like.
Yeah, there wasn't really one. Yeah.
And if you're going to put the vehicles on, you've got to have this mod. And I found this video by a mate of mine, Camo, and you look at the vehicle. He's obviously just been, through an ambush or something, all the bullet holes and that. Mm-hmm. But Tyson's vehicle mod is literally a must-have for any server wanting good immersion for the vehicles. You guys have it on Doug, Oz?
We don't. This is the first time I've ever seen this jack or anything like that. It looks pretty good.
It takes vehicles to the next level. Everything that you get frustrated about by vehicles, this mod fixes. Like being able to just pull a tire off and whack one on without having the car up in the air.
Mm-hmm,
and then you need to use the tire iron to secure them, because when this mod first got added to this server I play that you may have heard of called DayZ Underground, my mate, I think it was Camo, and we got in a vehicle and we started driving, and then I heard this big clunk and I'm like, what the hell? And he gets off, and boy, the tires are off. And I was like, what? And then it clicked. They've got Rag Tyson's mod on here. And he's basically having to go in and take every wheel off so he could repair it, then put it back on. So I know it would frustrate some people with their play style, but for me, with immersion, there is no better mod for vehicles in the game than Rag's immersive vehicle mod.
That's pretty cool. Is there anything else to that other than just the tires?
Yep. The parts to the car, you have to attach them with a screwdriver or the wrench, such as the doors and the bonnet and all the rest of it. I think it adds oil as well that you need to add to the engine to keep it running. He's got a heater inside the vehicle that you can turn on or off. That's off the top of my head. And
your tires take damage if you go off-road as well.
Yep.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, that's interesting.
It's absolutely stellar mod. It is hands down absolutely brilliant. And this is the sort of stuff I love. And I would love to see it in DayZ itself, but yeah, it is phenomenal.
Might need to make a video on that. Looks kind of cool.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, he in another one of his mods, Steve. He's got a where you can put a vehicle up on basically like a hydraulic lift, and it's got a computer attached to it, and it scans the vehicle. But this here, just for a simple mod, it's brilliant. You know, if you don't have a jack, you ain't fixing your car. If it's ruined, you're leaving it by the side of the road and having to go look for a jack. And yeah, you could probably add them to the files for cars, you know, where they spawn with a complete set, and you know, someone might come along and steal all the parts from it. But yeah, I just absolutely love it. You know, you can just imagine you've been through an ambush, you barely make it out of there, and then you've got to repair the vehicle. So yeah. And, you know, this is a 3-minute video. So obviously IRL is going to take a lot longer, but this just adds a nice little extra level of depth to the complexity of vehicles, which I think is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Yeah. And I know that like on DayZ, as much as people, you know, hate vehicles, they also love them, right? Like, you know, you're driving and you get teleported off the road, and suddenly you're driving seamlessly down the road, and suddenly everybody's dead, right? So I know that, you know, it's not the best system, but that's kind of the motto for DayZ. Is it really perfect at all in any sense? But yeah, small things like this to improve on it and add some complexity and depth to those systems, I think goes a long way. And yeah, that mod specifically I haven't seen before, but it looks great.
It's brilliant. Yeah, if you've got a good community, it's a great one just to add a bit of complexity to the vehicle mechanics of the game. But yeah, okay. We are close to the end now. We shall do some individual spotlights. Oh, no, sorry. I almost forgot it. What did I almost forget, Marks?
60-second
The DayZ independent calendar. Thanks to iRoadie. Let me bring up the link for this week. Weekly shout out, episode 199. Okay, so we've got Wastelands presenting the Amazing Race Basic event. Are you ready to put your survival skills to the test? This weekend, Wastelands is hosting the Amazing Race Basic event, an opportunity to dive into our map link system. We'll come back to that. Starts, I think it's already been. That one might have been a bit late. But we've also got Valkyrie Infinite's birthday stream snipe event, 17th of August. Discord.gg. Links are in the podcast Discord. But yeah, that seems to be the two events. Sadly, the other one, like I said, fellas and ladies, if you know of an event that's running a community, let us know. We'll shout it out each week. Try to get a short out for it as well, to showcase it and try to get some more eyes on your community. Keep running events, as easy as they are to do these days, they're still not easy. As we sadly saw, apparently Ariana had some issues with her event, which has broken her heart. Marks, do you know what happened there?
DDoS attacks, from what I heard. Somebody leaked the IP address, and first day it was DDoS attacks, and apparently it happened today as well, and it was just more DDoS attacks as far as I know.
I mean, I do want to mention that we're using shitty servers by GTX Gaming and Intrado. If you want to host an event where you have 50 streamers or some of them really big streamers, you should really invest into a proper dedicated machine and not cheapen out.
Yeah, there was
it was a shared service, was it?
It was just a regular server from GTX Gaming, and we all know that they use really shitty CPUs, because like DayZ requires a very good CPU, and they put like hundreds probably of servers on one machine, which it doesn't work well with DayZ either. So I don't know, like it's possible there was some DDoS as well, but like
that's what I heard, but it could have been more than one issue. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's sad either way. A lot of effort still goes into organising them. But yeah, if you know of any communities that are running good events, let us know. John McLean in chat, how you doing, buddy? But yeah. Okay. We had the DayZ Wiki Quickie from last week. They didn't send us a question this week, but the correct answer was the Kamchatka Peninsula. is what the Circle map is being based off. So those of you who guessed that, give yourself a pat on the back. Individual spotlights. Shout out anything you wish to, guys. Oz, we'll start with you. What's something you would like to make sure everyone's aware of?
So I guess my thing would be anyone listening that, you know, I'm gonna focus on Doug here for a second, obviously, but my big thing is if you haven't tried Doug before, or you've been turned off a little bit when you see that organic RP or just the sight of RP at all, I recommend giving it a shot. Any play style is accepted as long as you're not a toxic asshole, essentially. And we invite all players to come give it a try, and feel free to ask. Well, yeah, I didn't even realize that there was a thing with Archie, but I'm a little bit more interested now, so we'll see what happens after this. But yeah, so yeah, anyone that's
literally been begging for years to get back on.
Right on, yeah. So yeah, big thing is if you haven't given it a shot, come and try us out. Our community is super welcoming. If you have any questions, people would be more than happy to sit and help and get you kind of integrated as best as possible. And it can be quite casual, so don't be turned off if you think that this community has been around.
Active Discord, active Reddit, active website, active community, folks.
The server has a queue right now of 20 people, I think. So yeah, it's active as we're speaking.
Connor sent me a screenshot. He was trying to join. The queue was 30 when he was trying to join.
30? Oh shit! Yeah, we've gotten queues on like random Tuesdays and Thursdays throughout the week, so it is very active right now. So now's the time to play. Don't worry about joining after
a whitelisted community that's not really whitelisted as well, folks. Correct, so don't let that turn you off either.
Yeah, it's open to everyone. Yeah, it's open to everyone. And like I said, all play styles are accepted. It can be quite casual. Come give it a shot. My other thing is I wanted to give a big shout out to all the admins that are helping out and have over the last 10 years and keeping it going. It's been crazy that we've been around for this long. And to our members as well, that have clearly stuck it out through thick and thin. Huge shout out. And my big thing that I kind of came up with for this podcast was, whether you've been playing on Doug for a day or a decade, you helped shape kind of where we're at now. So big kudos and look forward to see what's next. And shout out to the cast and you guys on the pod. And it was a pleasure being on. It was awesome.
Cheers, mate. It's 200 episodes next week, which kind of snuck up on me. I've been doing the episode number each week, and it just didn't click that 200's a pretty big occasion. So yeah. Connor, what would you like to shout out, mate?
Nothing really comes to mind this week.
No, that's fine, mate. Helkiana, what about you?
No, I'm good.
You're good as well, Marks?
I have to give it to 126 and just the update that's come out so far.
It's awesome.
And the community kind of around it as well, because usually when an update comes out, the experimental servers they'll usually fill up for like day of release and maybe a day or two afterwards. But ever since it's come out, the experimental servers, or at least one of them anyway, has been constantly full with a queue. So people really are testing it and giving feedback, and it's nice to see people giving positive feedback. And if there is any negative, hopefully they give good, constructive, negative feedback. And overall, it's been good so far.
What about you, Matt? Anything you'd like to shout out, mate?
Yeah, actually, I'd like to spotlight a video from the Doug community that came out a day or two ago by a friend of mine, Shifty. It's just a really cool cinematic. It tells a really good story. It's short and sweet, but I will link it to you, Boydie, and you in the private chat, and you can throw it in there. But it's just a really cool video, and I think that the Doug community wouldn't be the community it is without people creating stuff like this, and the videos and the stories and the content. There's something special about the server, and I'm glad it's still going on 10 years strong. And just play on Doug. Check out DayZUnderground.com. Join us in the Discord. Ask questions. We're here to help.
I got a question about Doug. Is it ping good for EU players?
Yes.
We have a lot of EU players. Actually, it went into queue around EU prime time today. So yes, a lot of EU players play, and they don't really have an issue with it. Obviously, depending on your hardware and stuff and internet connection. But yeah, it's been really popular lately around that time.
Mhm.
Good.
Yeah,
It's
check it out.
even not too bad for Australians. I know there are a few Aussies who play it regularly. Our ping is usually in the mid to high 200s, which for a server more focused on interaction than just PvP is playable for me, because it's not just about the PvP for me, DayZ. It's a lot more than just that. My spotlight this week has to go to Raygun. Thank you for the laughs. Thank you for the laughs, Raygun. The breakdancing of the Olympics, but the Aussie Olympic team, how fucking good are us Aussies? I've seen quite a few memes getting around about why are the Australians so good in the pool. Dude, have you seen our oceans?
True.
We know how to fucking swim fast. We know how to swim fast. On the land, it ain't so dangerous. That's why we're not so good at running. But when it comes to swimming, yeah, man, we learn how to swim fast. But yeah, shout out to all the Aussies on the Olympic team. I think it was our most successful Olympics ever. So yeah, but Raygun, definitely the highlight of the Olympics for us. That dance routine was just absolutely epic. I felt sorry for her. That must have been. I can't imagine what she's going through. But I did see something said, Helkiana, about that highlights the difference between education on a topic and actual real life experience on a topic. She has a PhD in breakdancing.
Oh yeah, I've seen that on the Twitter.
Yeah.
For the video, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's going around. Yeah, that's going around.
Yeah, but no. Now get Daniel Ricciardo to do something magical after break. But yeah, thank you all so much. Episode 200 next week. We don't have a guest lined up for it. Scotty said he is trying to work something out for me because being the 200 episodes, we want to do something special. I have, Mark gave me the idea of getting in contact with some of the old hosts. So I have sent out some invites. Archie's confirmed. Lad's going to get back to me. Obviously, being a dev, it's a bit awkward for him to come back. I've reached out to Wee Devil. Brim is still, don't know what's going on with Brim. I think he's just chosen to step away from the internet, which can't blame him. Sometimes I think we all wish we could do that. But we can't get hold of Alice Mike either. But yeah, I'm looking forward to next week. It should be a nice, relaxing thing. Let us know any memorable moments that you've got of the show, because that was one of the suggestions we had, was like people's top 10 things that the show has done over the past 200 episodes. So yeah, also probably going to focus a bit on the DayZ Unite trip as well. But yeah, get Lad on and we'll get him drunk so he can spill the beans on the new map. But Oz and Matt, thank you so much for coming on. If you're looking for inspiration on how to run a community, look no further than DayZ Underground. They've been through it all. They've had controversies. They've had player dips. They've had the expansion into the EU market that didn't go so well, and a logo that they had to change because it was copyright. And they're a good team. They're willing to give you advice and all the rest of it. And what's the dog's name, Matt?
This is Moxley, and he wants me to take him outside. So he's yelling at me right now and waving.
He was winning chat over there before, but yeah.
Hi.
Oh, yeah, definitely the Archie Stormcloud.
That's Aussie Shepherd with a Corgi, mixed with a Corgi.
Ooh.
Yeah, he's pretty cute. He's a little awkward looking, but he's pretty cute.
Nah, he's not awkward. All dogs are awesome. I'm a massive. I had someone ask me, would you have more trouble killing an animal or a human? And when I think of killing an animal, the first animal that pops into my mind is dog, and I just couldn't do it. I love dogs so much. Humans, on the other hand, I'm not such a big fan of some humans. So there's a lot of nuance to the topic, but yeah, Aussie Shepherd, love it. But no, thank you all so much, everyone. We will see you next week for episode 200 of the podcast. I'll try to have some giveaways and stuff like that. I saved all the Humble Bundles for this month, so we'll give them away and see what else we can do. Maybe give away one of those Mike Doherty sippy cups. But yeah, all the best, everyone, and ciao for now.
Bye.
See you again.